Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Tim Dinan. I'm an assistant director here with the Villanova Graduate Tax Program. Thank you again for joining us today on our program webinar. And today we will be specifically looking at our estate planning certificate. So definitely a lot of programs, a lot of options that we have. We will be focusing on our estate planning certificate. And also as a guest today, we also do have one of our alumni, Jim Sumter, who I'll introduce here in a moment. So he'll be joining us and he'll be able to speak about his experience having completed both the MT degree. So he started with that as well as supplemented that with the estate planning certificate as well. So I'll have Jim introduce himself for a few moments here, and then we can kind of continue along with the webinar today.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Tim. So yeah, hi, everyone. So I'm Jim Sumter. I am in Birmingham, Alabama. And so I completed the graduate tax program last December, and then got to walk this past May. It was quite a fun thing for me to be able to do that. And so I'm a financial planner by trade. I've been an advisor for 27 years. I've been a CFP for 20 years. And, you know, it was interesting because when I was looking at the program, I thought, okay, what can I learn, you know, that I don't already know? Because I've already got, you know, basically 17, 18 years of experience at that point. So I think the one thing that I would take away from the very beginning, and we'll get into a lot more of this, is you don't really know what you don't know until you realize you didn't know it. And that's what the program did for me. And so I'm super excited to be here. Tim, thank you for the invite, and I'm happy to share some insights.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, so we're always happy to have you join us. So being a little bit far away, it's coming here on campus for the commencement for our degree-seeking students is always a good experience. So we're always happy to have anybody from local and throughout the country join us here on campus whenever we can. So yeah, as we'll move along, so I'll just kind of go over what we'll be covering today. So Jim, thank you again for your time. We'll also still cover a little bit about the program in general, timelines, what goes into our admissions time frame, ways to learn more, as well as a kind of brief overview of our estate planning certificate. And then we'll definitely have time for questions for Jim to be able to share his experience with the program. So as we'll move on, again, today we'll be focusing a lot on our estate planning, but that also can be done along with some of our other degrees. So we do have degree options as well as certificate options in our program. So we have our Master of Taxation. This is a degree that those that have kind of the financial services background, so CPAs, CFPs, CFAs, anybody that works in that type of the field, wealth management, different areas like that, enrolled agents. So if anybody is coming from that background, we'll be happy to work with you if you're looking into the Master of Taxation. This is a 30 credit hour program consisting of 12 courses plus a research and legal reasoning module. And this can be done in about 2 years, depending on the pace of how somebody goes. And we'll get into this a little bit more, but our program is a little unique in that instead of taking multiple graduate classes at the same time, it's set up where you take it where it's 8-week sessions. Each class will be an 8-week session. So you'll have some flexibility to be able to work around your professional schedule, personal life. So definitely something that you can schedule around what you already have. So based on that, you could definitely, if you wanted to kind of quickly go through the program as much as you can, go through about 2 years. But some people in practice sometimes take 2.5, 3 years, depending on how frequently they take classes. Another degree option we have is our LLM, which is our Masters of Laws in Taxation. This is for those that are practicing attorneys, so those that have completed their JD studies. And this is a degree that would be 24 credits in total, consisting of 9 courses. And this one with the 24 credits could be done in about a 1.5 years or so if somebody were to go pretty well one class after the other. So those are our degree options that we have. But also we have specifically our certificates. We have 4 areas, one new. We have state and local taxation, or SALT. We have estate planning, international taxation, which is just releasing this fall. So it's certainly something that, based on interest from a lot of different areas of our students, we've introduced that as a new certificate, as well as employee benefits. So to focus specifically on the certificates, they can be done standalone. So they would be consisting of 5 courses, and that would be 10 credits in total. And this can be done in about 10 months, so less than a year. So certainly something, if somebody in any of these areas, you really want that very focused knowledge and in a relatively quick time frame, without the length of what a degree would be. Definitely something that somebody can look into. So if this is your area of practice, you want to strengthen what you know, better yourself, this could definitely be a really strong option. Um, Other options you can do for these certificates is you can also do them as part of our degrees. So to share a little bit about Jim's experience, so he was enrolled and completed our Master of Taxation, but in addition to that, he also then specialized in this certificate of estate planning. So specifically for our MT, you can do it completely built in. The MT, a student would be required to take 6 elective classes, and of those 6 elective classes, you can definitely fill it up with these specific courses if you wanted to get that really specialized knowledge based on your electives. You're also able to kind of pick and choose. So if you want to take executive compensation class or another inbound or outbound international tax, you can pick and choose if you wanted to from these certain courses. But if you wanted to really specialize and really add upon your knowledge from one to the other, you can definitely group them together and take as many as you wanted for that. So for our LLM students, it would be a little bit different in that the degree, the LLM, requires 3 electives. So from that, you could definitely take 3 of the electives as part of your degree. But then if you wanted to also continue with the certificate, it would be 2 additional electives that you would complete post LLM graduation. But otherwise, it's definitely something flexible that we try to work with you on that. So if you ever started out with the certificate and wanted to continue a little bit towards the degrees, we can work with you on that to make sure it's something as easy as possible. And these are courses that are available for all of our students. So like I was saying, the electives are something that everybody's able to take classes from. So it's up to you if you wanted to kind of pick and choose or group them together in these certain fields here. So definitely a lot of flexible options for you. And to speak a little bit quickly about what our program, so how it's going to be set up. So some things that I already mentioned. So our classes are going to be 8-week sessions. So instead of taking it where it's maybe a semester of 15, 16 weeks, you're taking 2 or 3 classes at the same time. In that times, you're almost juggling your schedule, juggling the classes, what you're reading. The benefit to this is you're really just taking one class at a time. So you're really able to dive in and really immerse yourself into what you're getting. So that way, in an 8-week time frame, it's pretty accelerated, but you're really getting it and getting it quickly. So we try to definitely make sure that the program is practical. So in taking these classes, sometimes it happens in your professional careers, you cover or go over some of these things that you talked about in our class. So it's really nice that you're able to take these classes in a quick time frame, and that way that just betters you in your where you are with your for your work. The scheduling, as I was talking about, definitely can be something where you can take the A session, the B session, and you can take one class after the other. You can take a session off if you need to, if it's a busy season. We have in-person and online classes. So if you're local to the Pennsylvania area, we do have some campus classes here, but the majority are online. So you can definitely commit to completing the program 100% online. So definitely something that if you're local to us, that's all, you have an extra option, but otherwise you can definitely plan to know that there is no requirement for you to ever be here on campus. And then the last thing to kind of go over is the practical nature of our program. So we do have some academic professors, so full-time professors here at the law school, but we also have the majority of our faculty are adjunct. And these are people that their heads of tax where they are, Big Four, tax attorneys. So they're doing, this is what their job is, and they're experts in it, and this is their way of giving back to the community. And a lot of what the class, what you learn about, kind of as Jim was saying, and we'll get to him to share a little bit more. It's a lot of what's not in the textbook. So it's a lot of the things that these people have seen in their careers. And that's really the strength of the program, I would say, is to learn from people that have gone through this, know what they're doing, and have a lot of practical feedback, a lot of ideas of how to better yourself in your job. So definitely that will be the way that we format our classes. We have them, again, this is to kind of show it visually what it looks like, where you can take one class at a time in our A and B sessions. And we do have assistant director of student services that's able to help out as an advisor with you. So once a student is in the program, you'll have somebody to help you out to kind of navigate, okay, these are the classes I'm interested in. This is a busy season for me, and we work with you to be able to find out what's going to work for your schedule and what classes are coming up. So on paper, this is what it looks like, but obviously as a full-time working adult for most of our students, things can be a little bit more complicated. So that's where we come in to help out with that. And just to kind of quickly go through, as I talked about, again, you can definitely, a student could group if you're in a degree program, kind of pick and choose from the different classes that you wanted. So you can do transfer pricing, executive compensation, but otherwise you can focus in on primarily estate planning courses. And that's also specifically if you're enrolled in the estate planning certificate as well. So definitely a lot of options with it, but for us today, we'll be highlighting the estate planning and what it comes from there. And to speak a little bit about the admissions criteria. So we have 3 different times throughout the year that a student could apply and begin the program. So we have our fall session, spring, and summer as well. So generally speaking, once you give the program some thought, feel like it might be worthwhile for you, generally right around the quarter, we have a semester that'll be starting up for you. And the application, not too complicated. What it goes into is an application online, official transcripts from all schools that you've attended with 6 or more credits, letter of recommendation, essay, resume, and then depending on a person's background, if you're applying for the MT or the LLM or the certificates and based on your background. So for those that are LLM or attorneys, part of your application would be providing official transcripts from your JD studies. So that would satisfy that requirement. And then for our MTs or business professionals, it's one of 3 things. A student could provide GMAT or GRE scores, having a professional licensure, or request a waiver based on that. So if somebody's been working in the field for generally 7 years or more, have a strong undergraduate GPA, we could also waive out of that. So that's something that you can work with us on an individual basis to find out works best for you. But otherwise, yeah, the application, not too complicated. Generally, if somebody kind of sits down and focuses on it, it can be wrapped up in about a week. So definitely not too complicated of an application to work through. So we can move on with, again, that's the program in general. And then for anybody looking to kind of learn a little bit more, we have these monthly program webinars that we cover, sometimes on different topics. So scholarship funding for the degree students, working on an application, we have different topics. So feel free to check out our schedule for that. For anybody also interested, we also do have virtual class visits. So if you want to see what it's actually looking like to attend a class, you can reach out to us and we can connect you where you could sign up to actually sit in on one of these weekly live sessions that we have. It's really a great way to kind of just jump in, see what a class looks like, and go from there. And otherwise, we do have campus tours. So if anybody's local, wants to visit us here in the building, we're able to kind of walk you through the building, go from there. So it's a good face-to-face interaction if you ever wanted it. But otherwise, we do visit and go to various conferences throughout the country, as well as just kind of connect with us through a Zoom and a phone call. So definitely, again, this is a way that we're able to share a little bit of the information. But if you wanted to find out about yourself personally, wanted to share what the program would look like for you, any questions you have, we're happy to connect with you on a one-on-one basis too. So that is a quick overview of our program. And now we'll definitely get back into the main topic for us today is discussing our certificate in estate planning as well as our courses themselves. So Jim, again, thank you so much for joining us today. So what we can do is, yeah, Jim, if you wanted to kind of share a little bit about just in general how you felt the program was for you, how it benefited from you, and then we can get into some questions of some specifics of how it helped you specifically. But otherwise, I'll open the floor to you to share about anything that you feel will be helpful in our discussion today.
Absolutely. So, Tim, thank you again for the invite. I'm more than happy to do this. You know, when I was looking at programs, I mean, again, I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. I'd had a 20 plus year career already. I'm already a CFP. I'm like, why would I need to do this? And there were really three reasons that I even chose to take a look at the program in general and then added the estate planning certificate. Was number one, at almost 50 years old at that time, the satisfaction of knowing that I could do it was very important to me. I feel like nobody has a monopoly on good ideas, and you're always having to learn. And so that was one of the main drivers of why I looked at the program. Number two was, I would love to be able to teach as an adjunct at some point and at some time if I'll ever slow down in my practice and be able to do that. And number three is I had someone a long time ago that told me I probably would never do this. So there was a personal satisfaction of knowing that I could get it done, which I did. And so I will say I took about 2.5 years to complete the entire MT program and the estate planning certificate. I do a good bit of tax work and tax planning in my practice. So, the tax season is difficult to add, an extra layer of classes and things. So I chose to take off during I guess it was the spring B session each year. And, I'll give a kudos to working with Villanova and the scheduling, because we would sit down and we would basically map out the next year and say, if you do this, then this happens and this happens. One of the other things that I found fascinating as I started getting into the program is that a lot of times things will build. So like, I see LTX 3111 wealth tax. Well, I learned so much in wealth tax that I had never known was really out there. And I will give some very specific examples on how that's helped me even today. But wealth tax built the foundation for some of the other classes. So as you're getting into the certificate, there are some prerequisites. You have to take wealth tax before you can take, say, fundamentals of testamentary or taxation of trust and estates. And sometimes you would say, well, why is that? And as I got into it, I really understood, okay, this is why, because you had to build that foundation. And so, the one thing, I'll give an example, like on the wealth tax class. So I had read, as a certified financial planner, I'm always talking to clients about cash flow and investments and insurance and retirement planning and estate planning at a very high level. And we always brought in the attorneys, or we would bring in an accountant or something like that would sort of help build that team for the client. And so what I've been able to do as my own firm, so CMC Financial is in Birmingham. We're a single member LLC, but we've got many team members, and we each kind of have roles, and we're building that out and expanding that out. So one of the things that the program did for me is sort of taught me, okay, this is sort of how you do this. And I'm taking some of the roles that I did maybe in the first 10 or 15 years of my career, and I'm pushing those to someone else and delegating those, and I'm doing more of the tax planning, more of the estate planning, more of the wealth planning. So a good example in wealth tax, I had read through wills at times, and I had seen the words power of appointment. I had seen the phrase 5 or 5, 5% or 5,000. And I knew in general what those meant, but I really didn't understand why it was there, how it was applicable, things like that. Wealth tax taught me that at a very deep level, to where now really this in 2024, I've done more trust work and estate work, which are billable, so that's a good thing for our practice. And I'm able to help clients at a much deeper level than I ever was before. And then the estate planning attorneys that I bring in to help write the legal documents, because I'm not an attorney, so I can't write the legal documents, but I can advise on them. By the time I get done with the estate plan, and we use a software program, and it does a lot of the calculations and brings in all our different puzzle pieces to the comprehensive estate plan. By the time I get to the attorney, I've sort of already positioned to the client so much of the work, to where the attorney is really getting into more of the detail and the minutia, and okay, this is exactly what this means to you, but I've sort of set the stage for a lot of that. So we have fabulous working relationships because I have some of that knowledge. And so I think that that's really, really good. If I'm not doing the tax work for a client, and let's say they have a CPA or another accountant, I'm able to, you're never going to know everything, but I'm able to, at a higher level than I was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, speak to that particular accountant. And so I think that that's one of the biggest things that the program, and specifically the estate planning certificate, did for me, even though I'd already had years of experience as a CFP and had already done a lot of this. It helped me help clients at a deeper level, which was one of my primary goals for even starting the program. So that is a very in general, overview of how I felt that it built, and I truly feel like it helped me. And I've still got many years left in my career. And so as I continue to develop, I think it only gets better, and helps even more. So that's
Okay.
that's the in general part. So
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Jim. So
long-winded in general answer.
no. It's all great to hear. So you kind of went through a lot of the things I was hoping we could cover today. So yeah, wealth tax is definitely one that it's like you said, it sets the stage for the rest of the classes. Were there any other courses in particular that you feel have really been beneficial for you in your work, in addition
Yeah.
to wealth tax?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this list, and I'll talk this list, but then there's also courses in the program
Mhm.
that did, like, I'll, one example, I had never touched a partnership tax return until after I took partnerships. Now, partnerships is probably one of the most difficult sections of the tax code, which I was not, I was familiar with on the surface, but not in the depth. And I do not do very detailed partnerships. But so I work with a lot of individual clients, and so I have a lot of individual clients that they may own rental properties, and so and I'm going to tie this back in, I promise. So I have a client that they were new to me about 4 years ago, and they came to me because of the tax return. Okay. And so as we're talking about their tax return, we started developing deeper relationships on the investment side, on the insurance side, on the financial planning side, so on and so forth. But we still focused on the tax return. Well, they had just moved from Mississippi to Alabama. They went to school in Mississippi. He took a job with a manufacturing company in Alabama with Honda. And so, they moved to Alabama. So now they had this Alabama tax return. They still had the federal, but they owned Airbnb rental properties in Mississippi. And then they also had a long-term rental property, because when they moved, they didn't sell their house. What they did is they put it in service on a rental. And I promise I'm getting to a point. So one of the first conversations we had with them is that they might want to consider putting those rental properties into an LLC because of liability. So what I had learned in one of my previous classes, as we went through the types of entities, is that all the advantages of different types of entities and LLC. And I told him, I said, because here's the thing, you live here, your property is there, And you have no idea, from a liability standpoint, what you could be subject to. And they're a young family with, young kids and everything. So they've got a long time. I said, you need to protect that. And so they talked to an attorney, they created the LLC, so on and so forth. Well, they created it as husband and wife. Well, now what they automatically did is now they have a partnership. And so now they have a partnership in another state that has those sets of rules. They are domiciled here, they have those sets of rules, and then we have the federal rules. And so what the program allowed me to do is to advise my client on that one very simple topic, but is very detailed when it comes to the tax. And it's because of the way that I had learned through the program, because I would have never been able to make that recommendation maybe 4 years ago. Even though I was somewhat familiar with the concept, what it did is it brought everything in together. The second class that I'll touch on is taxation of trusts and estates. I'd done estates, I'd done trust work. I'd never gotten in depth on the tax side of trust. I'd finished 4 trusts this past weekend. Again, very billable hours. And that's a good thing. I'm working with an estate right now where aunt passed away. She had no children. Her husband was deceased. 5 beneficiaries, all nieces and nephews. 1 person lives in Alabama, 3 others in other states, and 1 overseas. So now I have an international client as well as U.S. clients, and there's a lot of issues around that. But they had an estate and then 2 an estate, a living trust, and then a family trust, which was irrevocable because the husband had passed away. So we had all these different parts of this puzzle that I mean, in all seriousness, 4 years ago, I would have thrown my hands up and I'd be like, I don't really know how to do this. I would have had to refer it out. Now I'm able to be like, okay, well, this is what you do, so on and so forth. And I'm literally sending an engagement letter to one of the trustees in another state today to engage on the trust return that we'll have to do next year. Well, I would have never known how to do all of that. My trust and estate tax class literally walks through how to do a lot of this stuff. And so again, I knew the basics. What this allowed me to do is get really in depth. And then there's concepts that we touched on in class that I'll never use in my career. It's kind of nice to know that it's there, but I'll never use it. Charitable gift planning, that was another class that I knew the concepts, I knew the basics of it. We really got in depth on that. And I have done charitable gift planning for several clients since taking that class. Really, and again, it's not just the class, it's the knowledge of saying, okay, this is the concept. Now, do I want to go and do I want to learn this at a deeper level? And that's what I've done on the things that were applicable to me. And again, it's been able to help me help clients at a deeper level. When you help a client at that level, they're not leaving. They're a stickier client. And so is it worth it? Yeah. So to me, it's been totally worth it. And I think that's one of the big advantages of specifically the certificate, in the way that it helped me to learn concepts that I only knew the basics of previously. So.
And that's something, in addition to what Jim shared, I've talked with other students, is it's something that, like you were saying, the topics that you cover, and if you're in this type of work, it comes up for you very frequently. So you're getting immediate benefits of knowing a little bit more in depth about things and then being able to put that in practice with what you do day to day. So
Right.
I've heard that a lot. So I appreciate you sharing that, Jim. So that's very helpful to know and share.
Sure.
So yeah, I think otherwise we've had a lot of different questions that we've covered a lot. Do we have any questions from any of our attendees? You're more than welcome to either put it in the chat or put this in here. So, okay, great. We do have a question here from one of our attendees. How much of a tax background do you think is needed for the certificate in estate planning? So is there a way, does it help you if you don't have the tax background for the estate planning. So could you speak a little bit about that of how much is it going to be tax as well as what you do in wealth management, how that works with the other type of complications or ramifications that you deal with that are not tax, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will tell you, I did not start ever doing a tax return until 2016. So I've been actually preparing a tax return less than 10 years. And one of the reasons was when I started my career, I was in the wirehouses. I was at Merrill Lynch, I was at Ameriprise Financial. And when I was with those firms doing wealth management, still as a CFP, but doing wealth management, my standard answer was please consult your tax or legal advisor because I could not be that person. So I'm now an independent advisor. I work with a big RIA, and I have an outside business activity for my tax side. So everything I do from an income tax standpoint is considered through my outside business activity. Everything I do from a financial planning and investment management and insurance and all that sort of stuff is through my RIA and my broker dealer. So because licensing, I have a Series 7, a 65 insurance license, and a Series 31. And then I'm working toward my EA or enrolled agent just because that's part of what I want to do going forward, but I don't have that today. So I think the answer to the question is really not that much, because one of the things that the program taught me that I don't know that I completely understood in the beginning is that, what the program is not going to do is teach you, okay, on line 20 of this form, this is how you do it. And then on line 28 of this form, this is how you do it. And this is how you complete that form. That is not what the program does. What the program does is teaches you from a statute standpoint. I had read tax statute and I had read Treasury regulations very minimally when I needed to, absolutely, but I don't know that I understood them. Some of your very beginning classes teach you what is precedent, what is not, why does a court case matter, things like that. So the program is taught from more of a law-based and statute-based background rather than here's how you complete a tax return. So I've got several friends and colleagues that I've worked with, that I talked to today that I went through the program with that were CPAs, and I'm not a CPA, and they were like, okay, we learned the same way, I guess is my point. Even though they had more of a tax background, I had more of an investment background, it didn't really matter because it's not this is how it hits a form. It's more of this is the concept, this is how the statute is written, this is what Congress's intent was, this is what the court says about this particular issue. And I will tell you, a lot of tax is very gray. And we talk a lot about that. And it's, if this, then that, but what about A, B, or C exceptions? And so I did not feel underprepared or anything because I was not a CPA and because I had only done tax for a little while. There's a lot of colleagues that were in my classes that did not have a tax background at all. And we all kind of went through it the same level. Now, on the flip side, if someone does have a tax background and knows where everything hits all the tax forms, they may have looked at it and said, I know how all of this works, but I don't know why it works. That's what the program does, is teaches you the why. So I think as a planner, when you're trying to work with clients and plan more, that's where this helped me, I think, more than, this is how it hits the tax form. And so I hope I answered that question. If I didn't, please give me a follow-up. But, my answer is you didn't have to have a whole lot. So.
Great. Yeah, that was very helpful, Jim. I
Okay.
appreciate that. So,
Good, absolutely.
and that's another thing to stress about the program. So as Jim was exactly highlighting is in the different degree paths and certificate paths that we can have students from various backgrounds. So we can have tax attorneys, enrolled agents, CFPs, everybody from different backgrounds. everybody will be in the same classes, so to speak. So if somebody has a particular interest in wealth tax, it could be an MT student, it could be an LLM student, it could be one of our certificate students. Everybody has their various backgrounds and are taking the same types of courses. So as Jim was saying, you definitely do start to learn a little bit from each other and start to think, how would you start to think outside of the box of what it is that your particular area is. So that definitely makes you more and more well-rounded in what you do. So I've heard that feedback a lot over the years, and I appreciate you sharing that as well, Jim.
Well, Tim, if you don't mind, I'll point out one other thing too. And one of the
Mhm.
reasons that I chose Villanova over some other very, very good programs is, when you have an 8-week class, which will go by very quickly, and it's a lot of information in a short period of time. However, it is extremely structured. And so, one of the things that I enjoyed about the program and the way that I learned, and this was very helpful for me, and I knew this about myself when I chose Villanova, is we would have a live class every week. And you had assignments and you had things that you could do on your own. So I may work all day and then go home at night and study or read or do these cases or problems or whatever the material for that week was. But then we would come back in a live class where it was me, my peers, and a professor that could talk about, and I'm not shy about asking questions. That's probably one thing people will learn about me pretty quickly. If I don't understand something, or if I want to clarify something, I'll raise my hand and ask. And that was welcomed by all of the professors, and I appreciated that. The other thing you mentioned in the very beginning is that a lot of the professors are adjuncts. So there were I think I only had two that were true academia, and they were both phenomenal professors, Professor Mullane and Professor Book. So I mean, you can't get any two better than that. Everybody else was adjunct, which meant real world, and so I could relate to them, they could relate to me, and we kind of became friends in outside of class, and that was very nice. It was very good. It was very helpful. Well, I guess I did have Mike Sims too, so I would consider him academia. He's kind of both because he's
Yep.
also he's also a practicing attorney. So I was learning a lot of things from people who this was their real world, and they're the experts in that particular section that they're teaching. And so that was one of the biggest reasons that I chose Villanova over some of the other programs, and then specifically the estate planning certificate, because I was going into it not knowing for sure. I had an idea, but not for sure. But then I thought, yeah, I've had the CFP for 15 years. I've done planning, I've done financial planning, I've done hundreds of financial plans, and what can they really teach me? Well, now I'm looking back and kind of questioning myself. Okay, did I give good advice? Good advice in the back, because of knowing now what I know. Because remember, one of the first statements I said, you don't really know what you don't know until you realize you didn't know it. And there's things that I still don't know, and you'll never know all of it, but at a deeper level is where it helped. And that's one of the things that I'll point out, just the way the whole program is structured. It was very, very, very helpful for me.
And I've heard that feedback too. So very much what Jim was saying is there's only so much that I've heard from students over the years that they've kind of self-taught themselves. So like one of our attendees, you had mentioned a lot of like continuing education. So that, from what I've heard, I mean, definitely can keep you going, but there's a limit to that. So that's definitely one of the benefits I would say of certainly the degree programs where Jim had mentioned, it really gives you that further well-roundedness. So like partnerships, it might not be something that it is your practice, but it can benefit you in some way, shape, or form. So that's very much the case where that you can add that to your knowledge and what you can do. And also specifically for our certificates, you're able to really get in and quickly learn a lot more that you wouldn't have had that challenge where you kind of learn or look up an issue because it's present, because it's right in front of you. But this is certainly a way that it kind of forces you and encourages you to broaden what you're thinking about. And then that way it kind of you never know in your career, things come up. So that's, I think, what Jim is saying. A lot of case clients that you've had that you're now prepared because you didn't have to put the time into researching it on your own, but you already have that knowledge at your disposal there, I would say.
Right. And one of the other things too is, what I would encourage everyone to do is get to know your colleagues. So if you're sitting in a class with, it's you, a professor, and 15, 20 other colleagues, get to know them. One of my dear friends today he's the accounting manager for a family office, and they buy and sell a lot of real estate. And so across the country, I mean, that is literally his job. He does all the accounting for them. So we went through exactly the same program. We started the same class day one, and we ended the same class day whatever it was, and we both walked in May. That's the way it worked out for us. And we text and so on and so forth. We actually talked the other day because one of the things I talked about my client in Mississippi. There were two things I failed to mention. One of the spouses is not a U.S. citizen. He is the male in the family. He has a green card, and so he's legal to work in the U.S., legal to own property in the U.S., legal to do everything in the U.S., but he's not a U.S. citizen. That brings about a totally different set of wealth planning and estate planning for them, and it brings about an extra layer of things that you have to present on the partnership. Well, I would have never known that had I not, just had it in, one of the classes and stuff like that. But one of the things that happened is they owned this property individually. It had been depreciated individually, and now they're bringing it into the partnership. So what is their basis? Well, that's one of the things we talked about in partnership class. Well, I had partnership class maybe a year and a half ago, and I don't do it every day. So I called my friend, I called my buddy, and I said, hey, let me run this scenario by you. And I gave him some of the high level of the fact pattern, and he was like, yeah, you do this and this and this. Well, that totally helped me because we were colleagues and we met in the program. So what I would say is get to know your colleagues because, everybody has knowledge in some form or fashion. And you just kind of use your resources. I probably could have looked it up, but it would have taken me however long to look it up when I could just make a phone call to one of my friends, run this by him. I knew he knew the answer because that's what he does. And so that's another, I guess, plug in a way. Doesn't have anything to do with the specific classes, but it has everything to do with the program. And I think that's really, really important to use your resources where you can.
And that's definitely to speak of when a student begins our program, you become a Villanova student. So there's definitely that Villanova network that you're in your classes. There's people throughout the country that you're able to connect with and professionally get to know. And like Jim was saying, they'll be people that you can kind of keep in touch with and continue to help each other in your careers. So very much I would say something that the program is throughout the country where we get our students from. So you have a lot of people that you can network with, learn from. So definitely a real strength of the program, I would say. And Jim speaks to that just because again, we are based here in Villanova, Pennsylvania, so outside of Philadelphia, but we have students from all over the country that take the classes and are able to kind of network with each other in different ways, shape, and form. Absolutely.
Right.
Great. So again, I think we're getting closer to our ending time. So we'll pause here for a few moments just in case if there's any other questions that anybody has had. But again, Jim, I can't thank you enough. So it's really very, very helpful for you to share everything that you've had and shared with us. So as we're kind of waiting here, feel free to reach out to us. So unfortunately, I don't think this is the most up-to-date picture with Jim in it, but yes, we always encourage our students that are our degree students to come here for commencement. So it's always a very fun celebration to kind of finish together with a lot of the students that you've seen on Zoom, you've seen in your classes week to week, but meeting in person is always a very extra special thing. So So I myself am listed on here. So myself and a colleague, we're certainly always able to help out with admissions questions, what it looks like to be a student with us. We have our director, our faculty director as well. So our faculty director is also somebody that we didn't touch upon it too much, but he himself is also a practicing attorney himself. So he's somebody that is a resource that we can always connect you with if you're interested in the program of connecting if, okay, this is what I do in my practice, these is what I'm looking for, would these classes benefit me? So we have somebody that you can always connect with from that point of view. So we're a lot of resources here if you're looking to learn more. And I feel as if we're all okay. So anything else, Jim, that you feel like it will be helpful for you to share otherwise?
No, I would just just encourage everyone to, take a look. I think it's a great program. I did the estate planning certificate. There are other certificates. I've considered maybe doing the employee benefit certificate because sometimes I work with business owners where, I know that deep level, but I got to get a couple of piles off my desk before I can tackle that one. So
And that's what I appreciate about you, Jim. Very much a lifelong learner. So there's
yeah.
always more knowledge out there that yeah, is always available for you. So I just wanted to thank everybody for attending today. Jim, I can't thank you enough for all of the wealth of your information that you've shared. So it's really great to hear your perspective, and we've appreciated your time both in the program and now after the program, even supporting us this way. So can't thank you enough.
Thank you. And if anyone has other questions, they can, I'm happy to answer anything. If you want to reach out to Tim, he can get you my information and reach out. I'm happy to do that. So.
Great, wonderful. So again, thank you everybody so much. Many ways to reach out to us. Otherwise, feel free to check in on our website, reach out to us, and connect to us from there. So thank you again, everybody, for attending, and we hope that this was beneficial for you and learned specifically about our estate planning, which Jim has been able to share his experience as well. So thank you again, everyone.